This doesn't seem like a Friday.
It's Thursday.
Oh. Are you sure?
Well, yesterday was Wednesday, so.
Oh. Right.
So that's how I know.
Welcome to the first part of my so-called life. I am currently cosplaying Rayanne Graff, everyone's favorite. I'd like you guys to follow along with me and maybe watch the pilot. I want to take you through my so-called life, the good, the bad, the ugly, and there is plenty of controversy, but there is a lot of good. And rewatching this series made me realize why I fell in love with it in the first place. And as the 90s are in and everyone's trying to reboot and steal everything, I just wanted to go to the main source of that 90s nostalgia. So the first thing we see is our main character has an identity crisis.
So I started hanging out with Rayanne Graff. Just for fun. Just because it seemed like if I didn't, I would die or something. Things were getting to me. Just how people are. How they always expect you to be a certain way. Even your best friend.
Not your best friend, Sharon Chersky. I can't imagine why you wouldn't want to be honest with her. Maybe because she sounds like this.
So then she admits that she only joined yearbook to be Nurse Scott, which is like so low. I mean, it's just, I know, if she doesn't want to be in yearbook, then she should quit.
Angela's caught in that awkward space where she's trying to make new friends and trying to stay friends with the old ones. It's not really working out that well.
Who are you looking for?
Nobody. So when Rayanne Graff told me my hair was holding me back, I had to listen. Because she wasn't just talking about my hair. She was talking about my life.
But for the record, I agree. Her hair was holding her back.
Hey, Chase.
What I like dread is when people who know you in completely different ways end up in the same area. You have to develop this, combination you on the spot.
And just completely drives the show. Angela and her feelings and the identity crisis that I think we all kind of feel as teenagers at one point or another. Preteens, teens, I don't know. Tell me if you didn't go through an identity crisis, because I feel like that's weird if you didn't. Anyway, she does a really good job at capturing this time between growing, where it's just like this awkward stage. You outgrow people, you want to be friends with new people, and then your old friends think it's the end of the world. Things get super complicated in high school. Just something like making new friends is traumatic. Look at Sharon Chersky.
It just seems like you agreed to have a certain personality or something. For no reason. Just to make things easier for everyone. But when you think about it, I mean, how do you know if it's even you?
A lot in my teenage years, and even still to this day, I'm sometimes questioning what is me and what's not. You know, we all do things for the convenience of others sometimes. How do you know if you're people-pleasing or if you're just being kind? It's a really good point, and you don't really know unless you ask yourself. She thinks everything has meaning. I mean, look, she's attributing depth to Jordan Catalano's character when all the guy does is burn. Like, he must be thinking such heavy thoughts he has to close his eyes all the time. No, girl, that's not how it works.
I'm in love. His name is Jordan Catalano. He was left back twice. He's always closing his eyes. Like it hurts to look at things.
Or he's just always stoned. Either way, he was left back twice. That's his introduction. She just stares at him, leaning into walls. I get it. I can relate. I had a leaner. I spoke maybe 5 words to him. I could count them on one hand. That's how nervous this guy made me. He had this long hair down to about here. I used to just stare at this guy. His name was Brett. If I could feel that feeling again that I felt for a man I didn't know, just leaning on stuff with long hair, Like, that would be amazing. That's the dream. Oh, that flutter. You know? You know. But I get it. All you need to do is be good looking. In high school, that is plenty. In high school, that's enough. And Jordan Catalano is definitely that. But in his intro, they do let you know that he's been held back twice. So make what you will of that. But if you want to do some quick math to find out what that means, well, Angela's a sophomore, she's 15, in real life and on the set. Jordan Catalano is playing an upperclassman who's been held back twice. So his character is at least over the age of 18. His character is at least 19 years old, okay? We'll talk about the actual facts later. My point is, he's playing a predator, the kind that just hangs out around the school. In bad taste, as I see it now. So I guess now I have to talk about Sharon. She's not my favorite. You know, she's quite grating, but they do end up coming to an understanding eventually. I mean, they are friends since they're little girls, but she's that kind of friend that, like, God forbid you want to switch up your look, or you make a new friend and they freak out like you're leaving them forever, or they think you're going down the wrong path and you're just naturally growing up and making your own decisions. It's just not their path. I had this happen to me when I was a kid. I remember when I was like growing apart from my friend group, and a couple of their parents called my parents literally to tell them that like I was getting in with the wrong crowd, all this crazy nonsense.
Your hair. Patty like hemorrhage. First time she saw it. And the sauce. Well, I have to say, I hate it.
That's like the most mean thing you could say to someone who just dyed their hair. This is no exaggeration. I remember friendships being ruined over someone dyeing their hair a certain color, as well as other inconsequential things, like fashion choices and friend groups. There's some that just won't let people grow up, which is incredibly toxic. I think a lot of what this show, what the takeaway is that we need to give each other that freedom to grow and to change. Angela connects to people in so many different ways, and since she's not integrated yet, she comes up with what she refers to as the combination self. She's learning how to navigate her life and all the different working parts of it. She wants to try new things. She wants to know herself. She wants more excitement. Sharon is a constant. Sharon is one of these people that, like, she was born as Sharon and she's gonna die as a Sharon. Like, some people are just from birth to death, just know who they are. I had a friend that was like this, and she always stayed so true to herself, and I always admired her because she always knew who she was. Now I know her as an adult. It's a trip. She's exactly the same person. Some people just know who they are really early. I didn't. But these are the ages where you do that. You know, these are the ages that it's normal to kind of experiment with that. And, you know, when we form the type of friendships that we want to have, how we handle them and such. Okay, so she likes Jordan Catalano way too much. We know he's not the caliber of man that Angela should be with. However, the adults co-sign it by talking about how good looking he is. Okay, like the mothers talk about how good looking he is, which is just bizarre. That's pretty much all there is to him, is he's good looking. He's not a smart guy. He can't read social cues, either that or he doesn't care about women. And I'm talking about the person that he is in the beginning. I know there's a character arc for everyone, but like this guy to me is a scumbag. And he's gonna stay a scumbag. In reality, that's what he is. See, it's full of the I'm gonna turn the bad guy good trope, and I've had it. I've had it with that. It's just, it's old, it's tired, and it's boring. Can we not do it anymore? Thanks. I'm just sick of the whole delusion. That's Angela and Jordan's whole ass relationship to me. Like, she barely had her first kiss, and he basically almost date rapes her in the car. And this is their second encounter. Her reaction to it is the worst part, because she's like, oh, well, that happened. Like, it's so cringe. It's so cringe I have to show it in its entirety.
So I have the money. So you have an ID, right?
Yeah.
So this is your car.
Get in.
I can't go anywhere. I mean, I should stay here. It's a long story.
I didn't say go anywhere.
Okay. What's amazing is when you can feel your life going somewhere. Like your life just figured out how to get good.
No, girl, that's just hormones.
Wow. It looks real. Why just... hey. I'm sorry.
No.
I was talking.
No. Whatever.
Stop it. Quit it! I mean, you have to work up to that. I didn't open that wide at the dentist.
How old are you?
I don't believe this. What is your point? 15.
You act younger.
First of all, you don't know me well enough to say how old I seem. And second,
You talk a lot.
I've said like 8 sentences to you my entire life.
This is like one of their first encounters. Why is she trying so hard to impress him? He's being such a dick.
This whole day has been really long. It makes no sense.
Now all of a
We
sudden
both
it's
stopped
romantic.
talking. Part of his sleeve was touching my arm. Then everything started to seem perfect for some reason. The feel of his shirt against my elbow. The fact that I still had an elbow. It was the perfect moment for him to kiss me. For him to anything me.
No, I don't think he's gonna do that, Ange.
Well, I gotta go.
And this is where his character would end if he wasn't exceptionally good looking. It normalizes this bad behavior. And for me, I mean, and most people, I feel they probably watched this before they went into high school. It would warn about like the standards and the pressures, and it's not that far off. There was a lot of pressure about sex, and you were almost shamed. Your virginity was something to be ashamed of. The morals are really fucked up. We didn't talk everything to death like people do now, and we didn't talk about sex in a healthy way. Rayanne is the perfect person with Angela. They are like the perfect mixture together. And Rayanne brings this life out of Angela.
You look a little like our mother, who's in a coma.
Even though Rayanne's not the most moral person, that love that she has for Angela is real. Even though she wears her flaws all over her sleeves.
I'll always be there for you, so don't worry. And you know, with your hair like that, it hurts to look at you.
Their friendship is really unique. Oh, and AJ Langer, the actress that plays her, by the way, married into royalty. She's like a duchess now, which is pretty cool. The biggest thing that separates Angela from most of her friends is her family. Angela comes from a very attentive, loving family. And that's a huge part of the show. The people that she's trying to hang out with, they're used to a level of freedom that Angela isn't even close to, because Angela comes from a very conservative family that doesn't allow her to do certain things that her friends are doing, but it's all for her own protection. And eventually she does come to realize and see that a lot of the parents of her friends aren't around or aren't supportive. And eventually she does come to appreciate this.
At Ryan's house, no one was home.
You know, a lot of these parents, they just expect the kids to raise themselves and they're treated like little adults. They're in high school, they're kids.
You want to have sex with who? Who? Jordan. Catalano. Just like I was always leaning against stuff.
This is just the first part. It's on Hulu right now. You can stream it. If you're missing home and you want to go back to the 90s for a little while, definitely revisit that series. And it has a great soundtrack as well. I remember having the cassette tape when I was young. So when I was doing research on the Oregon Trail thing, all the different names of the micro generations, in this one article I read a bunch of different names for Oregon Trail generation, the last one being Generation Catalano. Need I say more? Does that impress the importance of this show and this problematic relationship to you guys? How about when I tell you the truth behind what ages they were when they were filming? Because that's something I didn't learn until recently. I had mentioned earlier that Claire Danes is actually 15 as she plays. I had to do a little bit of wiki math for this, but learning that they are 9 years apart, I found out that Jared Leto was actually 24 at the time of filming, making him even more of a predator than they presented him as. Making him literally that guy that hangs out outside the school, like buys beer for people. That's the kind of predator that we're talking about here. The only difference is that he's good looking and he's in a band. And in the 90s, that made all the fucking difference. When you go back through material that had, you know, that kind of effect on you and you get to the real meaning behind it, the morality, the legality, you start to question a lot of things. And as we know, a lot of women are coming out against many actors, and Jared Leto is not an exception. We'll see what happens with that in the future, but I found it ironic and to be an important point that we influenced a generation with this, a micro generation, with this TV show based on a nice, innocent girl that comes from a loving family, basically trying everything in her power to impress a predator. Only it's so dressed up that you don't see it that way. It's so dressed up in 90s garb and grunge and beautiful men. And Kurt Cobain had just died, so I had a soft spot with those kind of men. This terrible theme of winning the bad boy, like she's just trying to impress this guy that's just a fucking loser. So watch the pilot. That's the first thing that you'll see, and you'll ask yourself why. Why is he a main character after he treated her so terribly? That's why I left the full scenes in, because I want you guys to see how absolutely cringe it was. Silences and all. I think I'm just gonna end this one here. This is just my part 1. I'm just gonna call it pilot because we didn't go too far beyond the pilot. We got into some characters, and hopefully the next one will go a little bit more smoothly. So I'm gonna end this one here. Thank you for watching episode 3 of the Oregon Trail Project. More to come on this, but I'm gonna chop it up so that it's not just all my so-called all the time. Thank you for watching.